Well, welcome everyone. I had asked last time what people were interested in talking about, and several of you had mentioned, the Tony Kuiper's TK9 action pack, and we can talk about anything you want. This is a roundtable. Does anybody have any problems we'd like to address first? With any problems you're having with an image, say, or difficulty?
But
Nobody said.
I
Yeah.
was going to ask for something afterwards. So if you did what you want to, and then if there's time, because it's just something with JPEG processing.
This is a roundtable. This is not a lecture series. This
I
is
don't
where
know.
we gather together, discuss problems, and if people want to know more about the TK9 and have questions about it, because we did a introduction to it a few weeks back. And I didn't know whether anybody had purchased it, had used it, where we're going to go. But let's address Nick here. What do you got, Nick?
It's really, it's one of the workflows I looked into, because I think the last Zoom I was asking, was there anything I was missing with when pictures get posted on the website for the competition. And actually, I think it's demonstrated from what I put in. I had one that was lit okay, and the other one was a bit dark. So I'd probably put that down to me. But one of the things it caused me to look into was the JPEG creation, because I think I'd sort of just defaulted to likely the one I shouldn't be using, but I've used it years back when I started. And then when I looked into it, I think there's about 6 in total, with sort of increasing complexity. And so it's really seeing, sort of what people's others' uses are, and whether, the slightly sort of deeper ones, as it were, that you don't hear mentioned. Because I think, there's bicubic and this sort of thing that I have heard of before, that there's a couple beginning with L that, one beginning with L that has 2 uses. When I looked into it, it was like, oh, that seems to fit macro a bit better. But it has some downsides to it that ChatGPT was able to sort of help me with. But actually, it seems a number of them have the same problem. So it's really seeing, when the JPEGs are created, is there, a particular one people now use, or is it still a bit open?
I'd just like to support Nick in his question, because I got an M3 and then I got TK9. I changed my color settings to what TK9 suggested. And then the colors were all wrong on my JPEGs when I didn't use a TK9 to save them. So I changed everything back to what I thought was defaults. But then I was getting dark JPEGs. So then I still have my old MacBook. I set all the color settings after Alan's session back to that MacBook, and I seem to be okay now, but I don't know why. And I'm too scared to go and try TK9 again, because if I do that, then everything's going to go wrong again. So I'm putting my sound off. Just thought I'd support you, Nick.
The compression algorithms that are used to make JPEGs are pretty standard across the industry. What is not standard is the color space you're working in, and the edits that you've done to the image before you save the JPEG. There is a real art to getting the exposure and the color right on monitors that are balanced and are calibrated. If you want to get JPEGs that look good, you've got to put in a good picture. And I think that probably switching to the different compression algorithms isn't going to make nearly as much difference as looking at things like color space and what your histogram looks like with the TIFF.
Yeah, Alan, I mean, this was it. The 2 I put in for the competition is what I sort of worked out was, the one I came along with at the Zoom was a bit dark. That's me. That's something I've got to get sorted. But this was just leading on from there, which is, not to say the JPEG compression is the solution, more having found it, was just to see if there's any value in talking a bit about it and going through them a bit today under AfterStack, because, you know, I can see that, you know, out of them, probably I've been going to bilinear, which was wrong, but the other two, bicubic and the Langstroth 3s, separable or non-separable, the details of them do seem to sort of lend themselves to the macro stuff, but it's whether anybody's found one of the remaining three is better than another, or has any issues that need overcoming and that sort of thing. Because they do, in the blurb, they mentioned about, I think diffraction, this sort of thing, and aberrations on the images when they're created. So that was really where I raised it. But I'm not concerned about the darkness my image is going to come to. I know that's me now. I've seen it with the two that I put in last time.
Do you have your screen calibrated, Nick?
That's something I've not got to yet, Bud, because it's, I think, I'm probably going to have to get myself a colorimeter, although I did discover recently that my studio display, Apple do provide a photographic profile, which just changed things immeasurably with working on the images. I think before, I mean, I should have picked up on it, but I was using their True Tone bit that also, you know, when the thing gets past sunset, you go to the dark mode and on the windows and that sort of thing. But that was obviously affecting it through the day because it's changing.
Well, I was going to suggest that if you're getting dark images, your monitor is probably too bright. And if you turn down the brightness of that monitor just a bit, 5% maybe, or 10%, then, you know, you get closer to WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Yep.
Right.
Definitely.
But the colorimeter will help. But you can turn down the brightness yourself. And then when you make something, you know, it's going to be brighter because the screen was darker.
Yeah, I mean, that probably will help me working out what's going on here then, because before I think I was working too darkly, you know, too dark a monitor because of the True Tone and the compensation the monitor makes for working just on normal stuff, you know, browsing documents, that sort of thing. But one of the pictures in the competition I put in was like, I'm looking at it in affinity and this sort of thing, and I'm looking, I'm good with that. Then I loaded it up, and even, you know, when I looked at it on the page on the website, it's like, no, that's not as dark as I made it. That's changed since I put it in. But what I'm appreciating, there's got to be something. I'm missing my end, because there was another one that didn't do that when I put it in.
And everyone's converting to sRGB prior to making a JPEG, right? Or during the...
Yeah, that was one thing. Thankfully, I was able to confirm that. And I think we went round at the Zoom to sort of say, you know, went into the details of that, and even look at the image, the JPEG under the preview app on the Mac. And yes, there's the color profile. It's sRGB. So I hadn't tripped on that one, thankfully.
It's a good idea to do your edits in the working color space, Pro Photo, which is the default for Lightroom. And then only when you're finished with the picture and you've got everything the way you want it, do your conversion. But make sure that if you're converting on export, then go with the highest quality possible. You can limit the size if you need to, but go with the highest quality, so that you know, that will make sure that your exposure looks right.
Yeah, because we've got 5 megabyte limit, I think, haven't we, Alan?
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't have to go between the coarse ones, don't you? But do you, of, you know, highest down to best down to medium? You can slide the thing about on the percentage by single percentage points and that, can't you?
I would go with a smaller image, because I'm never going to blow it up bigger than the screen. So, you know, I'm not going to pixel peep on these things. So I blow it up to viewing size, and that you can do that at max quality export.
So So position a pixel size, as it were, that you're looking. If you're looking at your end on the screen and you're not
Yep.
filling the screen, but you're looking at it and you're comfortable. You're thinking, yeah, that's a nice representation. That's the size. It would be good to look at when
if
it
I'm
comes
looking
out
at
your
it
end.
on an Apple Studio monitor, and that's as big as I'm going to look at it, as big as I'm going to display it. It's never going to be any bigger than that in the video. So
Right. Okay.
Any other questions about JPEG conversion?
Yeah, I got a question about JPEG editing and conversion. This is kind of a semi-stupid question, but is there a program that's any better than another? I've been using Lightroom and it seems to work fine, but is there a program that's specifically designed for JPEG editing and
I don't believe there is.
exporting or anything? Yeah, I couldn't find anything. So
Yes, Photoshop and Lightroom, they both do it, so.
okay, that's what I've been using.
If anybody's trying to sell you a proprietary JPEG converter, I
Ron,
wouldn't fall for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I started using Capture One software for tethering, and I do find that I'm not sure if it's just because it's different than Adobe, but I just don't find that it puts the images out right when I do go to stack. So if I do the same stack in Capture One and convert them to TIFFs, or if I do them in Camera Raw and convert them to TIFFs, I'm still liking the Adobe presentation. It might be if you're doing it landscape or other photography, but it just doesn't seem to do as well for macro photography. But for capturing, it works really well to do the tether and organizing the stacks and such. But it's supposed to be a good processor, and I'm just not seeing it. But it will convert to TIFF or Photoshop or whatever. But I'm just not liking it for that aspect. But tethering, I can't do any better than Capture One.
Is there any disadvantage to using a DNG? Because it's lossless.
what are you using it for?
Just anytime I'm pulling anything out to submit. And then one of the formats in your contests.
The contest, I believe that the rule is JPEG. I mean, I haven't been enforcing it. If people send a TIFF over and it fits, I mean, I'll use it. It's not that big a deal. Talking about competitions, congratulations, Patrick.
Oh,
Beautiful photograph.
Thank you. I was happy because I could post around at the school. You know, the kids were really impressed to hear my name. So
I
always
would
nice.
like it. Yeah, I would love to hear how you edited that photograph because it was so subtle and so beautiful. If we have time, Bud, and it fits in, I'd love to get the details on how Patrick brought that subtle lighting.
Okay,
Hey, Bud, do you use Topaz AI?
I do.
Have you tried that new super focus beta on that color issue you were talking about and softness? I've been fooling around with that, and I've had a couple oh my gods off of that where what I put in was pretty yucky and what came out was pretty damn good. Now it's still a beta because sometimes you get a disaster, but give that a try and see if it happens to work.
Yeah, I still tend to use the sharpen and the noise reduction gigapixel some. So I haven't been convinced that the photo AI is that good yet, but I will certainly look at that.
Yeah, you can download it for free and give it a whirl. But that super focus, if they get that nailed down, it's going to be pretty cool.
They offered it free back when they first came out, and I took them up on it.
Yeah, yeah, you have to update it a whole bunch to get to that, but
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they'd like to discuss? How many people, with a show of hands, own TK9? So we've got 4. And anybody else thinking about it? No? Okay, Jillian?
Sorry, I was off. I bought it with the November special and I stopped trying to learn it when all the colors went wrong. So I am very interested in what you're going to talk about.
I've not had that occur, so I am not sure what happened.
Yeah,
I found it really confusing, quite frankly, and stopped using it, but that could just be my tiny brain. But
Well, let's go have a look at it and just, sort of go over the basics again and show you a couple of ways you can look at it. How many people use it regularly? Very good. Myself as well. So let me share a screen and we'll go from there. All right, I guess I'm there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Lightroom. And let me move you guys out of the way. I just brought up
I'd rather go there.
picture. You been there?
I said I'd rather go there.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to show you on bugs, but it's a lot easier to show you in something that most of you used to seeing, like a landscape.
Where is that, bud?
This was on a lake in the northern Georgia, if I recall.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was headed up toward the mountains, and just a rocky place up in there.
Beautiful. It looks like the Piedmont.
Yeah, we had a cabin with a boat, so we'd go out and ride around. It was kind of fun.
Beautiful.
So here's just a picture. Everything is zeroed out. This is an older camera, so you can see I don't have access to my favorite linear profile. So this is where we're starting. And one of the things that, let me come back to the beginning. This was the way it came out of camera, sort of the exposed to the right thing to keep down some of the noise. But, you get these little areas up in here, which are potentially blowouts. And when you make a virtual copy, everybody know how to do that, right? Just right click it and virtual copy. Right click and where is it? Virtual copy right there. So you make a virtual copy, and then you can make it darker. And you can see that the detail is all still there. And you also have some detail in the foreground water, which weren't sure was there at that point. So then what you can do is you can take these two, you highlight them both, and you take them and you can HDR them. And let's see, I'll just do it for you. So if you right click on them and you come up to here to photo merge, you have a choice of HDR. So if you choose HDR, it's going to merge those dark and light photographs, and you end up with something that's more usable, right? You see the difference in the original and what the HDR merge of those two did for us. So let's take this one into Photoshop. I'm going to take it over. If you come down here and you say edit in, at the bottom, you see how you can take it over as a smart object. So if you take it over as a smart object, you can always open it and play with, this is it here at the bottom. I've put a few things, ignore those, we're going to do them over. But here's that same picture. And here, as you can see, if I blow it up a little, you can see that it's a smart object. All I did was duplicate it and then rasterize it. So now it's a pixel layer. Okay, it's not a smart object anymore. So from here, what we wanted to do is give it a little more life. And so one of the things I like to do with TK, as does Dave Kelly, his favorite thing is to start off, let's just do this. Let me just throw all these away. I was just playing with it this morning, but so if we take this and say, okay, let's bring up some mid-tone contrast. If we go up to this layer, so these are going to all make pixel masks, okay? This is considered a source. These first 8 images are all source. So you're trying to decide how you want to make the mask. Do you want to make it with luminosity? Would you like to do it with a zone mask? Would you like to do it with a color mask? Or the new thing is you can actually use blend if to make a mask, because as you know, blend if doesn't make a mask when you do it normally in Photoshop. So Tony Kuiper came up with a way to use blend if to create a mask. So you can use all of the protective mechanisms we've talked about and then convert it into a mask on a layer. This is a focus mask. It creates a depth map so that it sees things that are close, it sees things that are far away, and you can use it for blurring or darkening the background. So all of these are for making a mask, okay? And then these things sort of affect the mask a little bit. So if we go and click on one of these, we're going to get other boxes show up. So let's just click this one, and you can see that the green box is around a zone 1 bright. So if you did a luminosity mask without TK, this is what you would get. Okay, it's just a grayscale image based on luminance values. If you want to constrict it to higher values, then you go up one. You can see it gets more contrasty. Everything that's dark, now remember this is a mask, is blocking whatever you want to do to it. So if I'm going to put a curve on there where it's black, the curve is not going to affect. It's only going to affect where it's white. If I go to 3, it's even more restrictive. So I can cone down using these just by clicking on them. Or if I want to look at the dark side, I go to the other side and you get a reversal. Okay. Now, these things up at the top are just ways of looking. So if I take this red thing, it's an overlay, it'll show you where it's red is where it works, and where it's not red is, you know, going to be protected. So if we go to this one, do you see this grayscale it put at the bottom? Yes. See this little band? Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Is it green?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Green circle around it or square around it.
So what it does is it throws up a grayscale so you can see how your mask is working. So if we choose a mid-tone mask, it's going to protect both the highlights and the shadows. Here's an example. This is a mid-tone mask, but look, down here is black in the darks, and up here is black in the lights. Okay. If you go to another mid-tone mask, you can see that it has varying degrees of protection. So what Dave Kelly will do is he'll take this mid-tone mask, so he knows that he can increase the mid-tone contrast and knows that both the shadows and the highlights are protected and you can't blow them out or block them up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if we have this mid-tone mask selected, so all of this is about a luminosity mask. Okay, let me continue with the luminosity mask, then I'll come back to the others, just so I don't confuse you. Anytime we have these, we also have this, see the light gray background? This is a mask modifier. The black background is a mask output. So this will assign it to a curves layer. This will assign it to a levels layer, brightness, hue contrast, hue saturation. So here's a dodging, here's burning. So it has all of these options, but the one he uses is this one right here, which is color grading. Now, normally color grading is not really the way it is in Lightroom. But if you click on this, you get this image here that you can work with. Now, what you don't want to do is mess with the curve. It's just here for the program to be. What you want to mess with is this part up here. Okay. And so if you look, here's darks, here's midtones, here's lights. You can X out of it if you don't like it. You can pull these off to the side if you want to make something warmer, cooler, whatever you want to do. Go to the midtones. and we increase the brightness, you can move it and nothing happens. You have to let go of it to see the change. So I can bring up that mid-tone contrast as much as I want, knowing that my highlights and my shadows are protected. So if I come down here and click it on and off, you can see I have given it much illumination. But yet, if you look at the foreground reflection in the water or the sky, they're not changing at all. The shadows in the trees are not changing at all. But let's say that maybe those shadows are a little bit dark for your taste. Let's go make a darks mask. So I'm going to X out of this. And we can go back in and do another luminosity mask and select just the darks. So anything that's light gray, I can change. Anything that's black is protected. So if I want to lighten those shadows, I can. Okay. If instead, let me X out. Let's do a zone mask this time because we've already done one of those. So if we take this and we click into this area and we say, okay, you don't have to change anything. He has to use this in order to go through the system. You just say, okay. And so basically you can see up here that is selected a dark color that's darker than zone 1. So if I want to move it out, or I could even do zone 2, zone 1, there's a lot of dark. So maybe this one is not the best one for this. I'm just showing you how it works. If we come up to here and work backwards, it's not really helping us. So let's X out of here and go back to the luminosity mask. So we're looking at brightness levels. Let's do darks 3. I'd like it to be more restrictive. Let's try darks 4. I think we're getting into the shadows pretty good. Let's see if 5 is too much. Let's use 5 and lighten it up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify the mask with a light gray background. I'm just going to, for this sake, use levels. So with the levels, I can lighten up our brights by using the mid-tone slider. I can also slide in the white one. So we have all of our shadows now are where we can manipulate them. Let's put, say, a curve on here. And you'll notice down here that all of these things, which are being used to create the mask, will disappear as soon as I click the levels button. I'm sorry, levels button. So you can see here's my levels. Here's the mask that we generated, that one. And so now with this levels, I can lighten up the shadows. So if I take the mid-tone slider and bring it, you see I can really take it way too far. So anything that was a gray, you can bring the whites down a little bit. So you find something that's more pleasing, maybe somewhere in there, and you can turn this on and off and see you went from really dark to something that maybe is more acceptable. Let's say that we wanted to put some sunshine back in the valley. Let's do this with color. We've got some nice golden areas back in there, so let's make a color mask. So if I click on this one, I'm going to take my eyedropper and I'm going to go back and click on this hill. I'm going to say, okay, you don't change anything on the color, and you can see that it's picked out that color throughout the image. Okay. So with the color mask, you see that things got a little different. Okay. This slider is showing you the window of colors. So if I want more yellows, I could take this and move it this way. If I want more of the reds, I could move it this way. But let's leave it where it is. But these areas are still too dark. We need to brighten them up. And this slider right here is how you do it. So you go from dark to light. So as we come up, you can see I can make it brighter and brighter.
I'm a little confused about the two colors strips.
Here,
What's the difference between the two again?
So this one lets you just choose a color. This whole band here. If I want to choose just orange, I click it. If I want to choose just greens, I click it. If I want blues, I click it. Okay. It has nothing to do with the eyedropper. But let's say that I want to get back to where I was. I can choose the eyedropper up here again. I can go back and pick out the hill again. Say, okay, and I'm back to where I was. These sliders are like a window. If I move this out, I'm going to include greens.
Oh, okay.
So let's go back up here. We'll pick on the area again. And we'll say, okay. And we're back to where we were. So all we're doing now is we want to lighten the whites so that our effect will go through. But if you get it too hard, you'll end up with potentially a sharp edge, which is not great. So you'd like to have it feather just a little bit because that's what luminosity does for you. Color masks, all of these masks give you a nice feather at the edge so you don't end up with a hard edge like you would with, say, a pen tool, okay? This, on the other hand, will shut this window to narrower. So this is a wide window, and it gets narrower and more restrictive as you go down. So it's making a very tight line between these two circles. It's closing the gap, if you would. So this is a tight and this is a looser. So let's say we're somewhere in here, okay? Let's make them a little, yeah.
Is that second slider, is that altering gray or something else?
This one?
No, to the right of it, the one you were just working with. Yeah, that one.
All it's doing is if you think about the color spectrum, you've picked out a window when you click on it with that eyedropper tool.
Yeah.
Now you can squeeze that window or you can expand it. That's what that does.
And it does it equally from either side of the color that you've chosen, yeah?
As far as I know, it does, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So all this is doing is making a narrow window as you pull it in or a wider window as you move it out. Okay. At this point, we could modify the mask further. Just to show you we can, we'll open the levels and we'll make the whites even a little bit brighter. We still have what I see is to be a nice, so let's say somewhere in here, okay? Now then I'm gonna say I wanna put this on a hue saturation layer because I like more saturation back in that valley. So when I click this, all of this debris down here will go away. And you can see I have a hue saturation layer now, okay? This is my mask that we just made. This is hue saturation. So I can take the saturation slider. I'm gonna move it too far just so you can see what I can light up. I think you can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can bring as much light as you want back into that valley because everything else is protected. You can do the same thing with insects. You can do the same thing with minerals. You can pick out a color that you want to modify. You can do it with selective color if you wish. You can do it with hue saturation. And sometimes I even use calibration to make that color even better.
Does it help to zoom in for some of the finer adjustments? Or do you always stay full screen?
I do both. It just depends on the image, but you can see it's not too sharp. You know, this is an older picture. It had enough stuff that I could show you some stuff, but.
Are we just thinking about technique? You know, what's the best way to do it?
If you've got a mask this good, it really doesn't matter. If you see something you don't like, then you paint it out. For instance, let's say that I'm going to open this mask and I don't want any of this house to show. Okay. I'm going to move this up out of the way if I can. There we go. So I can get me a paintbrush. I can get some black paint at 100%. And I can come down here and I can just paint out what I don't want. So anything I don't want to be affected, I can erase it. So if all I want is the distance, I don't want the house at this point, because I don't want the house to turn yellow, the snow, no, don't need yellow snow. So that's sort of what we had to work with. We can leave the trees alone, but let's get rid of them. So here's our mask that, we've just painted out. So when we go back to look at it and we turn it on and off, you'll see only the distant hills are affected. Is that too subtle to see?
Mm-hmm. And Bud, you said the feathering of the mask, do you say that was automatic?
Well, think about the image. The image is full grayscale, 256 shades of gray. It's not like a hard-lined mask that's black or white. So that fading of gray into adjacent colors gives you the feather.
Okay, so yeah, so that color when you picked it and then on the slider, it looked like it's going from a sort of reddy orange to a yellow orange at tightest. Because of that, when it does the mask, it's picking it up. Yeah, that's what gives you the feather, yeah?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
So I just made it brighter so you can see it. But you can see that all we have now, the only thing the mask is letting through is those hills in the distance. So we can put some sunshine there. Let's say that we want to add some contrast into the foreground rocks over here. Okay. We could do it with a curve and then paint it in, certainly. But since we're just demonstrating how it can be done in TK, let me show you how to do it. So let's go and grab a zone. And let's pick out a lighter gray over in here. Say, okay. And here's our mask. Okay, now I can make this mask tighter. So we're increasing the contrast in those rocks I was interested in, as you can see, this area. Okay, so all of these rocks have dark areas and bright areas. So if I put this on a levels or a curve, then I can increase what I want to do in this area. But let's say I don't want it to really affect the house. I can paint it out. Now, while you're in here and making this mask, you see I have a black brush. If I use the other black brush, it won't work here. I have to finish what I'm doing in TK before I can use the regular black brush. But while I'm in TK, I can use this black brush and it effectively does the same thing. So if I don't want any of this foreground stuff, I can just take it out. If I want the mountains to be sort of protected, I can make a bigger brush, maximum soft, whoops, go back. Lordy, let's see, I gotta move stuff out of the way here. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. So with a feathered brush, with a flow maybe of 20%, you see you can come in here and just kind of knock down what you don't want to have affected. But at the same time, you've created basically a transition. So let's go and say, okay, well, let's put this on a curve. I'm going to output it, black background. I'm going to output it. I have it now a curve. If I look at this curve and I go up into this area, you see how, watch this curve. You'll see how while I'm over that, there's a dot. And so you can see that this area where it is, if I click it, it sticks the dot on there permanently. Not permanently, you can pull it off. In other words, I can take this and pull it right off of there. But if you come over here and you click this area, now I know when you move this area, the tendency is to move at 90 degrees to the line, but really what you should do is go up and down. So if you grab this and you pull it down a little bit, you kind of darken some of the rocks. Let's take this part and lighten up some of the rocks. I'm kind of exaggerating it so you can see what's going on. And let's see if I was able to do that. So before, I think I liked it better the way it was. I was trying to show you something, but I don't think I did it. Let's turn this back on. Let's see if we can get this a little bit brighter. And maybe this one down here a little bit darker. So let's see the before and after. There's before and there's after. So we've put some light and contrast into those rocks. This thing looks too bright. So did it turn and get some of that? So you got involved as well for somehow. It was in the same zone. So I need to go to the mask. I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to get black paint. I'm going to make my brush a bit smaller and I'm going to paint at, whoop, we want to paint on the mask. And so we're getting rid of that at 100%. So now we have the brighter rocks and we're back to where we were in the background. Did that confuse everybody or are you with me?
With you,
Anybody
Bud. I think it was just not seeing the mask painted this time that might have thrown it a little bit, but yeah, there we go. So we can see we've taken the meadows out, haven't we? And left the rocks.
left just the rocks. So we brighten the rocks using TK. Obviously, you can do this with contrast curve. Let's turn this one off. Let's just do a normal contrast curve. And we'll do the same thing. You can turn this black. One of the easy ways to do it is using TK because if you look right here, you click on this and you get a black mask. So as you learn these buttons, they're easy things to do. If I want to know what a button does, if I hold down the Option key, you see how it tells you up at the top there?
Mm-hmm.
Creates a black hide all layer on the active layer. This one
And you can't toggle a label for the tools.
Yes.
Just have it on the screen all the time.
I don't know that you can have it it might be available to have it active all the time. I don't. So I haven't researched that, but Tony would let you do that for sure. You just go into the preferences and I'm sure he has a setting in there that would do it. Let's say we wanted to maybe highlight some of the foreground. We could do it with a curve, but since we're trying to show you how we can do it otherwise, let's just try a different method. Let's just go and get us another zone curve. Let's pick out this wall, say okay. And here's the mask it generates for us. That's not going to help us a lot because there's not enough definition. Let's see if we tighten up the window, if we can get more definition. You see how the wall is left to be white?
Mm-hmm.
And make it whiter. Now, the other thing that I can do, since I'm still in TK, I'm going to make a smaller brush. Why isn't it working? I'm not on the brush, that's why. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm doing is making a smaller brush. And I'm going to come in and actually paint this wall white. I have foreground colors white. I'm going to reduce my flow to say somewhere in the 10% range. Oh, I haven't finished doing my TK yet. I'm sorry. So what I have to do is make a mask before I can do it, or I can use this white brush. So if I use this white brush, I can make this whole area in here brighter, including the wall in between, so that we can lighten up these walls and foreground rocks perhaps. And then we'll put it to a curve, or let's just put it to levels. black levels. And so here's our levels. So if we want that wall to be brighter, we can brighten up that wall. You can see there's more happening in the background that we want to ignore. So let's bring the whites in this way. Bring the darks up a little bit. Bring the whites in a little bit. Darks up a little bit. So we're trying to lighten the wall without losing texture and contrast. Let's see if we were able to do that. Got a little bit of contrast in there. I'm not sure we lightened it up that much. Let's try bringing it in a little bit more. There we go. So we've given some brightness to that foreground wall. So if we go back to the mask, let's get rid of all this stuff that we don't want. So I'm going to make the whole picture a little smaller. I'm going to get a black foreground with a normal brush, because now I have a normal mask. We're out of TK. So with a brush, bigger brush, and we're going to a much higher thing. We can take and erase all the stuff that we didn't want. That's all we really want to do, is to brighten up maybe a little bit of the house and a little bit of that wall. We don't need the water any brighter. We want to control those reflections a bit. So somewhere like in here, we go back, turn it on and off, and you can see we've highlighted that wall using TK. But what you notice is that the grasses adjacent to the wall don't get any brighter because the mask has protected it. So it's not like when you try to paint things in and you have to be real careful. Otherwise you get a halo around things because your brush was too big. This is what you get. So this is a way I use it on bugs' eyes to control the highlights. And, you know, feather it in, or I don't do much minerals yet, but it certainly looks intriguing. So I probably will get into it eventually. And maybe what I want to do now is to brighten up our house back in here. So using TK, you can do it 1,000 different ways, but let's just, for example, see what we can do with a color because it's brown. Let's take and brighten it up, and let's take and tighten it up. So as we tighten it up and brighten it up, we can see that we've brought the house up quite a bit. Let's get our white brush and give it a little bit more. Whoops, that's way too much. Let's bring our opacity down to, I don't know, 10%. Guess you could use the black brush too and get rid of some of what you did. And maybe a little bit back into here with a white brush. And let's hide the snow and stuff because we're happy with the way they are, but we'll need more. And maybe we could use a little bit also in that foreground. Let's don't get any in the water. And
Bud,
yes,
are you still working on the HDR image?
yes,
Okay. Could you do this to a normal?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Bud?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we on the mask modification, are you going to go into the secondary tools like the dodging and burning on the mask?
I can, sure.
Yeah, because I was thinking that would be easier to
Show folks.
yeah, well, also for that house, instead of doing a white brush, you know, just doing the dodging on it would.
Okay, let's try that. So we'll turn this off. We'll go back and, I don't know, let's try a luminosity rather than color. And let's see. I was trying to see if we could light the house up a little bit. But see, the trees are so bright around it. Let's try the color one. I'm gonna X out. Go for color. Say okay. Let's brighten up. You see how we've isolated it from the trees by using color? Now we're going to tighten it up. I'm going to make it brighter. And I'm going to modify the mask because this light gray background, I'm going to see if I can make the house even brighter still. Bring this in a bit. And so at this point in time, if you look right here, this is the burn tool. This is the dodge tool. It's divided in half because it can give you a gray background or a clear background, transparent. Same here. So if you depends on which side of the burn tool you want to do. If you want a transparent background or a gray background, the gray background is also going to change the blend mode, as I'll show you.
Yeah.
So if we want to make this lighter, we're going to dodge it. So
Yeah.
let's go to the dodge tool.
Yeah. Actually, Bud,
Yes.
I was talking about the secondary tool for the mask on the hamburger menu on the
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do that in a second. Let me just
Okay.
finish this one then. So if you come to this and you click it, I guess this is just a mask. It doesn't have it. This is just the dodge burn tool. So I haven't made a mask. I apologize. But with the dodge burn tool, you'll notice that we're in overlay blend mode, and it's selected out a white brush because we're dodging. If we were burning, it would have selected a black brush. Okay. So as we dodge, we're at 100%, which is too much. I'm going to a flow of maybe 11%, and you can see that I can selectively dodge these areas using the tool that he created. So all it's done is he's done and made an action of how to create the burn tool. So he's done it all for you. He's changed the blend mode. He's given you the brush. He's given you whether it's white or black brush, and you're good to go. But you could paint anything you want to bring it around and make it lighter. Okay. So let me go back to Julie's. I'm sorry. Let's see. Get rid of this. Let's go back to the, let's see, we were doing color, weren't we? Making it brighter, bringing it tighter. You're talking about this hamburger menu.
Yeah. Then you could dodge and burn right on the mask. So if you want to lighten up without
Exactly. I see what you're saying. I don't normally use that. I like it. That's why it's a round table. Thank you. Let's see, we can lighten that whole area up right there.
Yeah, and then you're still protecting the windows because they're
Still protecting the windows because they're dark. Yeah. Okay, to get out of the hamburger menu, you just X and you're back out of it. I can get the black brush and take out some stuff that I don't want as much of. And let's bring it out to a curve. We make those areas brighter because we've isolated that mask. Very good. Thank you. Comments?
Awesome.
I guess with this same tool, these things over here are basically tools that don't use the mask. So all of the mask making is here. I was in error coming over here. I apologize. But over here you have, let's say, a dodge tool. So let's make a dodge tool. It's white, so I can dodge along this wall. Okay. I can go back and put a little bit of life into the hills in the background. If you wanted to burn, let's say we wanted to burn the waterhead in the front just a little bit. Come on, chair. You could go to the burn tool, which is here. Again, I'll make a gray one. You can see that it's giving me soft light. And it's giving me a black brush. Blush is picked. So if I come now Let's make it smaller. And make my brush bigger. And we're at, that thing becomes a nuisance after a while. Let's come in at say 3%. I can come in and give a little bit of density to this water in the foreground. Let me give it a little more. That's hard to see. But I could take down some of that highlight in the foreground so it's not quite as eye-grabbing. And that takes your eye into the picture a bit more. You know, we can go back now all the way down to the dodge. Let's make us a small brush. And let's just, I have to go back and get the brush and change it back to white. So I can go back and, so if I do one stroke, remember my trick with one stroke? If you go up here under edit, there's something called fade the brush tool. Shift Command F on the Mac. If I do that, Shift Command F, it gives me a slider, a fading slider for the last brush stroke. I can take it all the way back before I did anything, and I can bring it up gradually until I like where it is. So here's 19%, you know, it just makes it easy to bring it in on one brush stroke.
Bud,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned that foreground being too bright. So how would you, using TK9, make that a little bit less bright? It's quite just in terms of looking at the picture, I think it's a little bit bright at the moment. How would you approach that?
Okay, if I took it up, let's go and get a luminosity mask, and let's find where that is. So here is 4. That's got everything black except for the water. I'm back to 3. That gives us a little more water. Let's use this one because we can obviously get rid of the stuff in the distance by painting it black. And let's make it brighter. And we do that. Let's do it with the levels. We're working on the modify the mask, light gray background. So we want this water to be lighter because we want full effect on this water. So I can take it almost into pure white there. Okay. So we're still inside of this exam. So let's go to the black brush and let's go to 100% and let's paint out everything we don't want. Probably easier ways to do it, but I find this very convenient. So there's our mask. And so now if we want to darken it, we can do it with levels or we can do it with a curve. Let's do it with levels just because it's available to us. And you see we have the levels that didn't go to the top, but let's put it at the top. So now then we can change and make that water darker. Something like that. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, no, I wanted to just look at the workflow and what you were going to do. So thank you.
Yeah. So basically what you do is you pick out the area you want to work on. If it's a bright area, you know, use the light side. If it's a dark area, use the dark side. If we wanted to make these trees back in here darker, we could do that. Let me just give you one more example. Then I'm going to do it with a luminosity mask. And I'm going to go, what I'm looking at is the trees back in here. I'd like to be a little bit darker, I think. Let's see if 3 is a bit better. Let's see if we can tighten it up a little bit with levels. Let's try a zone just to try it out. And we want to take these trees right here. And let's use this to tighten it up. So you see it isolated the trees better. See how they're white and the rocks are dark. So we don't want the rocks, we want to darken up the trees. And now we can brighten the white parts of the mask so that our full effect will go through. But let's say that that looks good for the trees. Now what we'll do is we will go in and take down anything that we're unhappy with, you know, after the fact. But let's go ahead and output this to, let's just keep it simple and put it on a levels. So here's our mask over here on the right side. You can see when I click on it, there's our mask. Here's our level. So what we want to do is we want to darken those trees back in there to give it some pop. You see how we can control that? So we've given more contrast, but look what's happened into the foreground. We've blocked up our trees, you know, some of the stuff we don't want. But since we have the mask, we can now come back in and basically paint black so that we can hide that effect. So if you get the brush, you get the black paint, and you're ready to go. So we can come back in and bring all our trees back to where we were. I'm doing one brush stroke because you know what I'm going to do. So let's go use the fade tool. So we can take it back to too dark, and then we can bring it up to where we think is a good place to be, to give a little bit of presence. What do you think?
Much better.
Can you control the color as well?
What color would you like to control?
For example, the trees. Can you just make an adjustment to color?
You can.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it with levels?
Curves.
All right. Let's make a curve. And you only want the trees?
Sure, as an
Okay.
example.
So in this instance, I'm just going to put a curve up. I'm not going to, and what I'm going to do is hold down the Option key. I'm going to drag the mask that we just made. And yes, I want to replace it. And so now I have the same mask with a curve.
So you're in Photoshop now,
Yes.
not TK necessarily.
No, this is just straight Photoshop.
Okay.
So all I did was hold down the Option key and drag a mask that I already had made. So now I have curves as a mask.
Oh, okay.
So now if we want to use curves to change the color, so here we're in full RGB, but we have the red, green, and blue channels to play with.
Yeah.
So if we want to go to the green channel, if we give more green, we can get outrageous, but you can see you can add some color in there.
Right.
You could also use this mask on a hue saturation layer. So let's say that we wanted to do a hue saturation layer, not in TK, hue saturation. I'm going to Option click on the mask and drag it up.
Again.
Place the mask, yes. And now we have a hue saturation that we can play with as well. So we can saturate what we have in the green channel. We can change the hue of the trees if we wish. Something like that.
Nice.
So anyway, once you've got a mask made that is as good as TK can make it, there's lots of things you can do with it. You can just Option click and drag the mask you've already made. You can take one and, you know, subtract something from it. Let's say, I don't know. I'm kind of running out of things besides getting into the weird stuff to show you, but I think this is enough that you ought to be able to play with it. But this color thing is a very powerful gizmo. Okay. And so Dave Kelly, his workflow 100% of the time is he goes, I'm just going to option click on this. So we're back to where we were. He goes, and the very first thing he does is a mid-zone mask, number 3. Okay. So if you remember, I can put up a grayscale at the top. You can click it on, you can click it off. You can click it on. It's just a way of seeing what you're doing. So we're protecting darks and the highlights.
Okay.
Okay. And at this point, if I clicked on the red thing, everything turns kind of red, except for the parts that are not going to go. The sky's not going to be affected. So I don't use the red all that much. You can also go back and forth between the mask and the color image with this double arrow. So you can click back and forth to see if you're getting what you want in the mask. Okay. Also, you don't have to just use the RGB channel. Let's say that we want to see what the red channel will do for us. That's a red channel. That's a green channel, blue channel, cyan, magenta, yellow. Okay. Yellow channel is pretty interesting. RGB, yellow channel may be even more dramatic. You see, we've got good contrast in the situation, but we still have highlights protected, shadows protected. So once he's got the number 3 clicked, it doesn't matter which one of these you pick. You can see that the 3 has still got a green line around it, and the yellow still has a green line around it. So we've got a yellow channel mask, mid-tone. Okay, and we're going to output that to a color grading layer. So this is what Dave Kelly does. And at this point in time, he wants to bring up his midtones. So he clicks on the midtones at the top, and he starts bringing it up. Remember, you have to let go to see the changes. You know, and that's not a bad place to be. And you know your highlights and shadows are protected. You're not blowing them out. You're just playing with the midtones. What if we want to do something with the dark tones? We can click on the dark. Let's make the dark tones even darker. Too dark. I mean, that's not bad as a starting point, you know? If you
Hey,
want
Bud,
yes.
does it save a history of everything you're doing?
It does.
Okay.
Let me close out of this. So let me see where my history is. I have my history right here. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
And so it shows you everything we just did, adjust brightnesses, color grading, yellow channel.
And you can go back.
Yes, you can go back and forward. The other thing I use the history for a lot of times is this down here, the camera. Do you guys got that?
Snapshot.
Snapshot. So let's say that you've gotten to a point and you want to try something weird, but you don't want to lose where you are. You take a snapshot. Okay. You can make 3 or 4 different paths, take snapshots. And so basically you're making decision trees with your snapshot. So you can go back to any point in time where you made a divergence from what you were intending to do as an experiment.
How is that different from just going back history?
You can go back into history if you know where to go.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This is like a bookmark of where you want to go, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you could find it in history, but you got to do a lot of clicking to find out where it was.
Right.
And this is just a bookmark to take you straight there. Okay, questions? Julie, you have anything to add? Roundtable there, anybody that uses this, please pitch in.
Yeah, the one thing I've been trying to learn, and it's kind of hit and miss, is the mask calculator. You know, adding and subtracting, combining masks. That's I'm sometimes successful, sometimes not. It's
I am exactly the same. I can try it, but I won't I won't guarantee success. But the trick is you have to have a selection before you enter the channel.
Yeah. I've been saving my masks as channels if I get, you know, like a luminosity that I like, and then like the blues, and then trying to combine them into a mask or subtracting the blues out of the luminosity. It's been kind of, but I do save them as channels because I know that seems to be important. And so again, for me, it's kind of like blend if. Sometimes I get it to work and sometimes I can't.
Well, this little blue guy here, is that who you use?
No, I use the on the main TK panel, there's the calculator.
Right. But
yeah, so if
this
you
is the guy you have to use him first.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'll have a selection, but I'll have saved a bunch of masks as channels. You know, so if I if I go to the channels tab, and you know, so sometimes I'll like copy the red channel and make it a duplicate so that it's available. Yeah, and then so you just right click it and save it as a duplicate channel. Not sure where
Could you share your screen and show us?
yeah, I don't have a Photoshop up. Let me get rid of my cat.
I just made one called a red copy.
Yeah.
Hang on while my computer. I don't know why it gets slow sometimes. I think it likes it to zoom.
Oh, Photoshop.
We went back to Lightroom for some reason to photo.
Yeah, you Photoshop. You got a message.
See the red copy at the bottom?
Yeah.
So all I do is make a red copy.
Yeah.
So, since you have red,
yeah.
So if you have red copy and you come up to this little blue guy, you can see that red copy's up here now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can make that as your active selection.
So you click on that, and then you go to this little gizmo here called the calculator. And I want to subtract, let's say, the sky.
Yeah, then you have to hit equals up in the dash section.
Yep, there it is. See, it says.
Yeah. So
that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So what I do is in the I'll just like click on the red copy on your channels menu before you go up to TK. So you know
that did it.
Yeah.
So I was able to subtract the sky from the red channel.
Yeah.
So you can see the sky turn black. It's a way of intersecting masks or adding masks to each other. But usually intersection is what most folks use. So for instance, you can get a sky selection, but it's bright white. And now you want to intersect that with a TK lights 2. So all of a sudden you intersect them and you've still got just the sky selection, but now you can see clouds. It's not purely white. So when you increase the contrast in the sky, you have the clouds to observe. So it's not just uniform. Some of the clouds are darker and resist the change more so than some of the others. So it's a way of intersecting masks. But like I say, do you have a sequence that works for you, Julie?
Yeah, well, what I tend to do is I just I might start off just by copying the red, blue, and green channels in channels, so I have them available as a channel, and then I might make a sky and foreground selection and save those as selections. I'll activate maybe the sky saved channel, and then go to the TK calculator, and like you said, subtract out some of the if I want to like isolate the clouds, I might subtract out the blue from the sky, so I'm just getting the whiter clouds. but I'm finding it with the TK calculator, I'm having a lot better success than trying to use the Photoshop's intersection and adding and subtracting to the mask. So, but one of the keys I found is that I have to have any masks I made saved as a channel, so then I could get access to them in the calculator.
I got you. Okay.
So
I'll try that. But it's a real nifty way. One of the tricks, I just went back, let me just show you this. If you want to, in the TK channel, TK9 panel, you can see that this right here is a sky selector. If I select it once with a command, click it,
oh, you're not on the pixel layer.
not on the right layer, yeah. Now we're there. Okay, if you command click the sky, and you go to channels, it created a sky mask. Okay, if you go and this time I hold down the command, that would be the control key on a Mac. I'm going to not single click it, but double click it. And it makes me a foreground mask. So there are a lot of tricks in here that really make life easy in landscape type photography. Some of these things work and don't work for me in bug photography. But you find things that do work. You know, I can control colors. I can control contrast and brightness of different parts. I can add, you know, lighting by creating shadows and relative highlights. So you can give some three-dimensionality to your inset photography by using this set of things. But there are so many things in here for, you know, if I hold down the option key and just show you, this one creates a new layer. This one creates a stamp. This one will invert it. This does a group. This is a smart object creator. This duplicates a layer. This deletes a layer. You've got your dodging and burning. You've got removing and adding a layer mask to the active layer. If a layer mask is present, it is removed. If no layer mask is present, a white reveal all layer is created. So this puts a mask or takes it away. This makes a black mask. This is for clipping. This deletes hidden layers. This will disable a layer mask. This toggles between composite and viewing the layer mask. This opens the layer mask calculator. This is the stroke dialog if you want to put a stroke around something. This opens the fill interface. Gaussian blur. Activates the remove tool. Camera raw. Creates a new stamp visible layer, converts it to a smart object, and then opens it as the camera raw filter. So you click on this and it gives you a smart object with a camera raw filter. So it makes it a smart filter in camera raw. One click. Free transform. Choose subject, sky, select, deselect. Saves the axis selection as a channel mask. So on and on and on. And then there's even more. If you come to this TK thing and click it, you get this whole pop-up window. So you can go now and you can do frequency separations, all set up as an action, leads you right through it. You can clean dust beautifully. So if I wanted to clean dust, I would click on this. It turns my picture into something that looks like this. And you can look around for dust. I have a clean one because I've done it before. But if there are spots up here, they're going to show up. Okay. If you go to the layers I don't know where. Heo clone, I think is where it is. But this is where you would be painting when you remove things. So if there was a spot up here, you click on it and it removes it to that layer. And you click it again to turn it off. And you're back to where you're supposed to be. So, I'm having trouble hearing you. Hello? Maybe they're not talking to me. Anyway, so there's a whole set of options in here. You can do everything from neutralize color cast, Orton effect. Soft pop is nice. If you want to do soft pop on this picture, just click it. So you can see what it did to you. Anyway, this whole thing is full of all sorts of actions that you can do different things to. You can stack, align, focus blend, vignette, freehand vignette, spotlight dimmer, dehaze, clarity. Let's do a clarity on this one. Usually, I tend to leave the pixels alone. And you can take a look and see what the clarity did before clarity. After clarity, I think if you look in the background here, you get the full effect of what it's doing. So it's increasing fine contrast. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to offer as a discussion. I think Julie is probably a pretty good power user. Anything else that you would like to?
No, I'm not consider myself a power user. I just sometimes I just fuss with something and try and get a sense of, like I said, I had always had problems trying to do combining masks using Photoshop, and then finding that the TK panel is more intuitive for what I'm trying to do if I'm trying to like subtract a color out of a selection or a luminosity out of a color or something. But it's still kind of hit or miss for me, but it does work better overall. But the main thing I figured out is, I just try and save everything as a channel if I got it masked already, because it doesn't hurt to save a mask as a channel. You could delete them later if it's taking up too much room. But then if you've already got the selection possibility, so like I said, sometimes I'll just start off and just duplicate the red, blue, and green channels from the base image, and then I could use those as selections later. And so it's a lot depends on exactly what I'm doing. So like if I'm doing crystals, I may not do it so much, but it's sometimes it's just kind of like I want the green tree, but not just the dark green tree, and so that's where it gets but it's getting there, I think. But the when I found the dodging and burning on the mask, the TK mask panel, that really helped a lot, because the black and white brushes tend to be a little too heavy-handed at times.
I agree. I like it. Yeah, I haven't been using that, and I plan on it. That's nice to know about. There's nothing in the TK panel that you can't do in Photoshop.
Just easier.
Steps. It's all actions. So basically, what Tony has done is take a 10-step thing and make it into a one-click button.
Yeah.
But
yes,
out of interest, do you have this image finished to your satisfaction, how you process it and compare it with the original, or have you not done that?
No, I haven't, because as you notice, it was out of focus. It was just one that had enough color and stuff to play with. This is probably one that won't end up on the wall, but I've got other images of this area. tucked away somewhere. For my
I had
children
a
to figure out.
question for
Sure.
Bun Julie. Some time ago, you suggested getting a package of initial sort of training videos. I think it's from Dave Kelly. What was that series called? I remember you saying they were very good value.
They're excellent. Let me see if I can go to show you where they are. It's goodlight.us. That's Tony's site. So if why is that always in the way?
Alan, check the meeting chat.
Oh, I've been looking at it.
Okay.
I've been here. I've just been getting some stuff done on the side. I don't use this panel. I don't understand it.
Not a
It's taken
problem.
me a bit of time to get used to it, but the more I use it, the more I like it.
Yeah, I've been using it for years. So
Well,
here,
Bud showed me
Same
this
here.
4 or 5 years ago, and I actually got it, and it simply didn't add anything to what I was doing. I couldn't tell a difference in the end images, and I'm all about speed, getting it
Yeah.
done.
Alan, I think I've just been having a play in my Affinity because there's, I'm not about to switch to Photoshop, and it's, as Bud was putting all this out, I was thinking, yeah, you can't create the masks as quickly and efficiently as the TK tool does in Affinity. You've got all the drag. I've just been doing, 1 or 2 examples and working my way through it, and yeah, the methodology is sort of different, but the creation is what I suspected, which is the TK tool. You'll basically get the buttons under your belt, and then it's a case of you can go to straight away the masks and the adjustments as well. I'm looking at and going, yeah, they're a lot more efficient in terms of getting it all done in one thing. You get it all together, and there you are. It's there. And doing things like masking out, if your luminosities and that sort of thing, altering the settings on it to highlight or suppress something. All of that is not as easily done when you're what Bud said. It condenses 10, 20 steps down to 1 or 2 sort of thing. That's the speed thing. And when you compare it, that's where it comes through.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Definitely. It just never actually proved to save me any time or improve my outputs.
Yeah. Well, I got it when it was on sale, and then I didn't use it for like a year. I just had it, but I hadn't dipped my toe into it. But then, just learning like one button at a time, I gradually added more and more, going to TK first instead of another tool. And like for mask generation, it is because I'm always modifying. If I just do like a selection tool in Photoshop, I'm still always having to go in and tighten it up or adjust it. And in TK, all that happens before the mask is generated, so I'm not having to clean the mask up so much. And it just took some time to integrate it. And
well, I think it's certainly worth another try. I mean, clearly the people that are using it are very happy with it. And
I was going to show, was it Jillian that asked about?
Yes, go
Is
ahead.
it the button by button guide?
The button by button is excellent.
Okay.
All of these, this is like got 46-minute videos. So it doesn't keep you looking at something for an hour and a half. It gives you a button, talks about it, moves to the next button as the next video. So you can use it as a reference to go back and check out your button by button guide. I own this, highly recommend it. But look at all the free stuff you can get.
Oh yeah.
Luminosity Mask free, TK Print free, Gen Fill, selection brushes, getting started with Photoshop free. The TK9 plugin, $33.
And it's the one you were talking about was the button by button guide. That's one I'm going to get.
Yeah, the button
Thank
by
you.
button is excellent.
Thank you very much.
See, this one is free, getting started with TK9. So between this one and the button by button, it really gives you a nice understanding. And then start watching Dave Kelly, because you cannot find a better teacher that uses, because he does TK Fridays.
I have watched some of those. Very good.
They're very good.
Yeah, and somewhere
Particularly
there's
on the
also
landscape.
yeah, isn't there also a PDF somewhere? It might be in the panel itself that you can print out, so you have a like a button reference guide.
There is.
Yes,
Yeah,
I've got the
Absolutely.
basic
up
stuff,
to
but
the top. There we go. Button reference
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah, no, I've got
Okay,
those,
button.
but I was looking for those training videos. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
So anyway, if you're interested in it, this is, you know, as the power goes, $30 is not much for all of the things that you can get. And this describes each button in detail. Now, he doesn't go into in-depth how to use the subtleties with other buttons and stuff, but he describes the button very well and shows you how it can be used. And then it's up to you to decide whether you want to go and get, say, advanced luminosity mask for 25. None of these things are expensive. If you look at other courses that are $200, these are a bargain.
Look, you're talking about US dollars and not South African rands. Before Trump bans everything for South Africa, I better get these things.
I'm sorry, you broke up?
No, my currency, everything is expensive in dollars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think about that. My bad.
But that's great. Now I'm going to get that button by button guide.
The button by button and all the free stuff that he has on the site will more than get you started. And once you have the understanding of sort of how the buttons work, then you watch Dave Kelly and it all comes together.
Yeah, and I have been watching Dave Kelly, but I just felt I needed something to balance
Right.
that on the more detailed side to reinforce. So thank you.
Plus, the linear profiles are free. It just costs an email because he has to send it to you. So he doesn't know where to send it unless you give him his email. But
Yeah,
I use
that.
linear profiles a lot.
No, I have that.
Anything else, anyone? Round table.
Yeah, can we ask Patrick, if he's still with us, to tell us a little bit about how he got those effects on his picture?
Don't do it, Patrick.
Yeah. You know, actually, there's not much about it. And unfortunately, I was looking around whether I have it here, but I haven't.
I'll pull it up.
Because I don't have my external hard disk here. So
I've got it.
Actually, what I did was I had this old aperture, which I took from the Minolta lens of my wife. I just had to check whether she's still here, and so she doesn't use it anymore, and I needed the glass, so some lenses inside, and the aperture was left, and I took it, and it's quite big, you know. I was picturing it, taking the photograph with the 100mm Canon macro lens. It's a 1-to-1 shot, and it's actually not cropped. So, and what I started to do was I wanted to, you know, to shoot that I was putting it in an angle. The aperture was in an angle to the lens, and I was putting a flash. I started with flash behind it, so it didn't work. And then I switched to come again. Okay. Then I put a light behind it.
Oh, right now, thank you.
and started to use constant light. And in camera inbuilt bracketing function for taking the photographs. But and you know, the light was coming through. You see this, you see the rim, the rim light on the hole of the blades of the aperture, but it wasn't enough to get me the effect I wanted to have. So what I ended up was I have another 50mm 1.7 Minolta lens I use for shooting special patterns of light. You know, I built such a, I don't know how it's called, but you can buy it. It's like a little projector. You put your flash in one end, and on the other, on the other end you have a 50mm lens, and you can put slides inside. And I made a 3D model for that and printed all of that out, and so I can basically project any light pattern I want. And if you're getting close enough, so the minimum focus distance of that Minolta lens I'm using on that beamer is about 40 centimeters. And you can really light little details. So what I did was put a flash inside of that, made me a triangular shape, and supported that.
So you flagged off the rest of the diaphragm. You flagged it off and just used a low power flash to give that appearance of light coming through the aperture.
Yeah, it's actually, there is light coming through the aperture, so there's still a light behind.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The rim proves that. Yeah.
Yes, but it was not. It was very subtle, and I just wanted to have a little bit more, and I didn't use the flash at this time. I just put a torch.
Oh, okay.
I have a torch you can, especially if it's if you light up small things, the torch is really enough, and you can get really, you know, if you would want to, you can get really sharp edges even at this little at those little things. But you just have to, you know, you just turn on the focus ring of your of the object of the lens you use for projecting your light effects, and you get it smoother. So I think it's a bit cheating, but you know, in the beginning I was thinking of doing it with a mask and feather it, and I found that wasn't right. So I actually decided to do some creative lighting, and that's how it came into being.
I thought it worked spectacularly well. Absolutely lovely photograph.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Oh, totally. Congratulations on that one.
Thank you very much.
Now I have new ideas to play with my old Minolta lenses.
Well conceived.
It's a shame. My wife used to photograph with, you know, still in analog time, and she had quite a few nice lenses on her Minolta. It's a Minolta A mount mainly. That's the focus mount Minolta had, and they are laying around, you know, and I don't like things laying around which I could easily take apart. So
now, did you make a tube adjustment for that and then put like a gobo on the outside of a triangle, or did you just focus it with the aperture on the lens itself?
It's actually a slide I made. You know, I just cut it out. It's actually a black piece of paper with a little triangle.
Yeah.
In it, cut it out, and it's in the project in the I call it beamer. I don't have another.
Yeah, the beam light.
And then you can either put a flash or a torch.
Mhm.
in the back of the thing, the 50mm lens is in the front, and the space between the lens and the slide you put in is actually the flange focal distance of the A mount system, which is 44.5mm, if I remember right. And you can project any pattern you want to any surface.
Oh, that's going to be too much fun for me.
It is fun, you know, and if you use it, like, you know, if you put a flash in the end, and, you know, photographers use it normally for making beautiful, you know, like shadow things. If you have the window, you know, just window blinds, they make these beautiful shadows falling on bodies, for example. And if you don't have blinds, or you're in the studio, you just put a slide in, and I made. I think my STL file that the slides are 40 times 40, because it was a 36mm film.
Right.
So it's 40 times 40, and I print those slides normally. And you can print like the pattern of this window shades. You put it in there, and you project it with the thing on whatever you want to. I mean, and you can put all slides in from holidays or whatever, with coconut trees or the ocean, and it will project at the moment of you taking photograph this light. So what you take the picture of, and it's beautiful. You can get beautiful effects with that easily, and it's not expensive.
I will try that for sure.
Well, talking about creative lighting, Graham, what did you do with your pencil sharpener to give that eerie effect?
I just wanted to say, first of all, that Patrick won't be entering the next competition because of his broken arm since he beat me. Embarrassingly, for once, I've used a flash gun. And I actually used the AK diffuser flash. I was testing it out. I bought one for the flash gun. So I was actually, unusually for me, using not constant light. So it literally was a snap. I did it about an hour before I entered it. It was just a last minute thing. I thought I couldn't find anything. It's so hard, isn't it?
It is.
I can do technical things, but coming up with the invention of it's really hard. So that was purely a diffused light.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Graham, you would have liked where I went in Vegas, like every day looking for. I went to auto shops. I went to antique stores. I bought my sister a World War II radio.
Yeah, Keith loves it.
I would take that apart, but I was told I wasn't allowed to. So
yeah, Keith loves it, by the way.
So, oh, good. So yeah, it was so much fun just to go around, you know, looking at art stores, this store, that store, taking everything apart. I did take a picture of the inside. I mean, I liked it, but it just wasn't technically great. But a door lock to a sliding door is really interesting. Maybe I'll just put it up on Discord, but I didn't have all the right lights for it. But now that I know about the Minolta lens light thing,
I was just going to say to Patrick,
I got so many things taken apart in my studio up here. You know, I buy something and then I have an old laptop I dismantled, and you know, toys, and you know, some things I buy to take the picture of the outside. I bought a skeleton clock, and I've since taken most of it apart to get at the inner gears because it just things were in the way, and it's.
I bought an actual skeleton.
Oh wow! Now is that mechanical?
What?
A skeleton?
No. I didn't photograph it yet, but it's a real skeleton.
Now that's.
I don't think you're allowed to buy them anymore, but anyway, I did.
Well, I just go find bones out in the woods. I have a box of bones.
While we're jumping around a bit, Bud, did your microscope come in?
Yep. See it over my head?
Nope.
There are two of them back there.
Yeah, I see two.
Yes, indeed. You love it?
let's just say it's a game changer.
Uh-oh.
All right. I look forward to hearing about it on Tuesday.
The DIC is unbelievably good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
The
did
other
you
one was sort of like the Model T. I mean, it works and it worked pretty well. And I learned a whole lot about how to fix things and take things apart. And so it made it a lot easier when this scope came. So this is a CFI 60. It has a 60 millimeter parfocal. So when you swing the lens around, it's in sharp focus, you know, and it's designed for photography.
did your shipment from the company we found come in?
No, as expected. You know, I told you ahead of time, I thought it was fraudulent.
Yeah.
And so basically the reason I do it is so that I can get eBay and PayPal to go after them. I got all my money back because I knew I would. I did screenshots of everything from the get-go because I knew it was fraud.
So it was just that simple a
If you
fraud.
don't-
They just
Yeah, if you don't go after them, you know, then the next person that doesn't know how to get paid back is going to get hurt.
Yep. Yeah. Well, apparently after you and I talked about it, it turned out it had been an item on photomicrography.net. People had been talking about it.
Yeah.
And had arrived at the same conclusions.
You can't buy a real nice objective Mitutoyo for $25. My God.
No, you can't buy a cheap Amscope for $25.
But you know, anytime I find these things that I just really feel a fraud, I will buy something so I can sick these companies on them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good.
So I'll get the money back.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to butt in there, bud.
No, that's great. I've got almost a complete set of lenses that I've been going for. The only thing that I really would like is a dark field condenser for, you know, oil, but that's about it.
I found some dark field condensers on eBay, really good prices.
Well, if you end up with a spare, talk to me.
Yeah. Does anybody have a request or a preference or an idea of what you'd like to talk about next time on AfterStack? Is this format of just looking at pictures, talking about problems, is that more what you're looking for, or do you have a particular topic you'd like to talk about?
Well, I was thinking if in some way, like maybe take one of the topics, like before we even get to stacking, like I'm having issues with trying to get the right fittings for my enlarger lenses to go to the bellows, and just getting all that set up every once in a while is, you know, maybe a nice review.
I'll do that in my regular live stream. Because that will be something that I can cover. We don't need to use up post-processing time.
Okay.
I don't think, but I can certainly help you with all of that.
Aaron,
yes.
And answer for Bud too. I came across, let's see if I can find it, a technique for sharpening images, and it's not so much something to say, you know, should we use it, but more whether it would be something of interest to maybe investigate, you know, with a picture, because it uses one of the blend tools, and I'm just looking here to see if I can find
unsharp mask.
No, it's a bit more sort of how can you say, unusual than that. It's one of the people I follow for Affinity, and I'm just seeing if that's always the way, in it. You can never. Let's see if I can find.
Oh, we can just talk about sharpening. We can look at all the tools out there.
It was a tool that sort of, you know, I looked at and thought, all right, let's see. Oh, here we go. The vivid light blend mode. Okay, and this chap has used it to sort of do a sharpened image. Now, he wasn't doing macro, surprise, surprise, but it's whether the results are going to end up sort of giving us what we had, you know, sort of where, yeah, the thing's over sharpened. And so I didn't know if it's something for this arena where, you know, maybe we could sort of work through an image and to get to the end result.
Exactly the kind of thing we can do here. Bud, are you up for that?
No, that'd be great. Yeah.
Well, let's do that. Oh,
the other
sorry.
thing, Ellen, is for the JPEGs, a lot of times there's a sharpening that you can put on for web display, which I don't know whether you are telling people to do that for the show, the competition, or not.
No, well, that's entirely up to the entrant as far as using sharpening for the web. I don't use it. It's one of the export options in Lightroom, but do you use it?
I don't use
Do I
it.
use it? No, I don't, because I've sharpened everything ahead of time.
Yeah, I have everything shot the way I want it, and the I don't think it helps, and it's kind of out of your control a little bit.
Yeah, I found this other tool. It's not exactly editing, but it's an AI tool, and I can have it like if I'm watching a YouTube on how to do a technique, this particular app will transcribe the audio into text, and it could also summarize it.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is helpful for me because I developed an audio processing difficulty after the head injury. So to be able to like categorize these little things like the blend mode descriptions, and to have, so I don't have to keep going back through YouTubes or
any large language model will be able to help you with that. That's exactly what it's good at.
Yeah, so I've been trying to do some transcriptions of different videos where I'm learning different techniques, and that
great idea
has been helpful because then I can do a text search instead of trying to remember which video or which YouTube channel had that, because I watch a lot of different stuff between astro and macro and landscape, but
yeah, one of the most powerful tools is to take that transcript and then reduce it to bullet points, basically.
Yeah, and the AI chat will do that. It'll do a summary, and it'll also kind of if you put in a couple different ones on like blend modes, it'll kind of synthesize out a final project, and then I find that helpful.
Definitely.
I would like to see if I could encourage everybody to send pictures. We got no pictures from anyone this time. It really helps us define how we are moving towards something. There's not going to be any embarrassment. We just need to see what you're trying to do.
Well, there will be embarrassment if Nick submits any, because we'll make fun of it. Surely that counts.
That's why I do it.
That's why we all do it.
For the entertainment level. Tell you what, Bud, I'll post the YouTube video I found on this. I say I'm not thinking it's something we're going to go, cool, that's brilliant. And I think it's going to sort of either knock it on the head, or it might be all right, might have some use, but just as an exercise in the thing, and just I'll put it out to you, have a look at it, and then I think that will help to decide yay or nay.
Yeah,
okay,
send it to me too, Nick, because we'll look at all the tools. We'll look at everything that's out there that we might want to use.
Patrick,
it was just
Patrick had a suggestion.
Oh, I'm just seeing Julie here. There are a lot of really excellent sharpening tools for astrophotography, which I actually use even for my macro pictures.
Yeah.
And because they're highly specialized for sharpening pictures and even torturing, like fine structures, big structures differently, which is not that easily done if you just use the unsharpening, you know what I mean, mask. And that's it. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I'm not using the TK panel. I had downloaded it. I love it. I mean, it's great work he put in, but I have another panel I'm using for Astro, and it's just too much. And it does all the stuff not really that well, but it does it quite well. So I have luminosity masks and color masks and all that stuff, and I'm used to it. So that's why I'm not switched to the TK9 panel.
Which package is that?
But looking at the sharpening tools can be really interesting because they often deliver much better results than just.
Well, hopefully you can make it next time and show us some of those. And everybody that does some different types of sharpening, please be prepared to show us what you're up to. And if you have some, pictures where sharpening is difficult or, impossible or, let us take a look and see if there's a solution. Sometimes not.
Yeah, because I think it's easy to overbake sharpening.
Oh.
Graham, I think yeah, there you go.
Very easy.
Can I just ask one question? If you guys have a large image in Photoshop that you finished and you're happy with, and you want to resize it for the web, if you like, what method do you use in the reduction panel, image size panel?
Well, always keep it in in a what's the lock mode? Word salad. Okay. I keep it. Oh.
You upscaling or downscaling, Graham?
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of downscaling. I mean, assuming you've got a fairly large image and you want to, like the image behind me, you want to shrink it down to stick it on the web.
And what I would do is,
what method of resampling do you use in the image size panel in Photoshop? Bicubic sharper.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I do, but just wondered if everyone did the same.
I use gigapixel sometimes. You can actually reduce things with gigapixel.
Yeah, I've never done that. I've always gone larger with gigapixel.
Yeah,
we do half.
What I actually do is especially with downscaling, or I'm actually quite sticking to Lightroom for that, because I think I get the best results. So even if I didn't bring the picture in from Lightroom to Photoshop, I will then put it in a folder and import it and let Lightroom do the exporting, because maybe it's just because I'm familiar with it. With the function and with the settings, but normally if I have a huge picture and I want to make it a smaller one, I go to Lightroom and export it with the new measurements.
Patrick, do you have any options in Photoshop, or is it a default setting, and does it just try and do a one-to-one?
I didn't look it up now, but you have the options for the file format. You have options for the resolution, the density of the dots per inch density, but I think that's it. There are no I don't think there are any other options for how the image is downsized. But I'm always, I never had a picture I made smaller and looked at it afterwards and thought quality degraded while doing that. I mean, obviously, if you go very small, tiny, then, but if you are in a reasonable working with a reasonable factor of scaling it down, and never had a problem with that.
Yeah, I really have to do it at the Astro because they come out at PixInsight on the resolution that comes into Photoshop. It might be showing as a 72-inch width and a 50-inch height, which is obviously way more than you need for anything. So, I do use the Photoshop, just resize it to like a 24 inch wide to start with, just to kind of reduce the file size. And I don't find any problem just using the standard Photoshop. But if I had to change the DPI, I'll do it in 2 steps. I'll change the size and then change the resolution. So Diane taught me that because if you try to do it too much at one time, you can get some weird things. So,
Thank you.
Oh, I always keep mine in a smart object when I change. That's it.
Amen.
Very good. Bud, anything else, sir?
No. If you would like to see some squirmies on the microscope, I can call you later and let you see what it'll do.
Well, I'm doing my taxes today, so
I'm
any
not gonna interfere with
distraction would
that.
be welcome. But yeah, maybe if we don't get to do it today, let's do it Tuesday when we meet.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much for coming and for all your input. Very interesting as always. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bud.
Thanks,
Great
Alan.
job.
Bye,
Hey,
everybody.
Bud.
Send us
Thank
some
you.
pictures.
Thanks,
Send us some
Alan.
pictures. Look at that. Hearts everywhere.
Yeah, for sharpening, really, send us some pictures. Stuff you've sharpened or stuff you want to sharpen, and let's do it with your pictures.
Got it.
See you next. See you at Pazoom next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right,
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye, Alan.
bye.